Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you. This movie is a horror film from Spain, Spanish language English subs with a little bit of Italian language. English subtitles, released in the year 2021, directed by Alex de la Iglesia, and this film is called Veniciafrenia. So Veniciafrenia is about a group of Spanish tourists who are in Venice. They are seeing the sights, but at this particular time there's a little bit of unrest because the locals are sick of these tourists. They don't treat the place with respect, they're very rude, and so they just want them out. And so there's a lot of protests going, but these Spanish tourists are determined to have a really good time, but unfortunately, to add to their worries, there is a killer on the loose of the streets of Venice, and he is picking them off one by one. So whether or not they live through this vacation is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Veniciafrenia. Alex de la Iglesia is one of my favourite directors. He's a phenomenal director, he has his own distinct style, and he does specialise in dark comedy. So when I heard that this is more of a slasher type of horror film, I thought, interesting, I definitely have to check this out. And so I had my fingers crossed that it was going to be another expertly done Alex de la Iglesia experience. And after watching this film, I will say that although it's not the best Alex de la Iglesia film, it's certainly not his worst. This is a very competently made horror film, and it's a beautiful looking horror film at the same time. The costume design of this movie was absolutely phenomenal. I thought each and every costume had a very distinct sort of personality of its own, and it's just absolutely fantastic to look at. And so Alex de la Iglesia has a very vivid imagination, and that vivid imagination is splashed onto the screen in a lot of beauty, but a lot of shocking material as well. This is a very violent film, and so it does have a slasher aspect of it. So this is a film where you have these Spanish tourists. They aren't very likable, but you kind of get the impression that they're not going to be that likable because of that type of horror film that it is. There are some moments that I thought were truly chilling, especially with the bad guy in the film. Just the way he looks is very, very creepy, and the costume does play a massive role in that creepy effect. And so visually this is a very striking film, and it is a character of its own. So you do have the beauty of Venice and the beauty of, you know, the costume design, but you also have a strong menace underneath. The overall cinematography creates something that's very unnerving. It's very unsettling, but it's very subtle. So the attention to the minor details are present in this movie, again, which is something that you expect from a director of this quality. So the kills I thought were actually quite brutal. They are sporadic, they aren't, you know, very frequent, and so it does allow you time to actually have that sense of, you know, fear, and you're not desensitized to the violence. And I like the commentary on, you know, tourists and how these people in Venice were seeing these foreigners, especially in today's climate where everyone's afraid of foreigners. This is a film where it was a little bit different. It was more a take on the tourists and how tourists can be very rude, tourists can be very disrespectful, and how sometimes locals have had enough. And so this movie really plays into that in forming that sort of sinister presence. And so you never feel as though these tourists are enjoying themselves fully, because not only is there a killer on the streets, but there's also that sense that these people are not wanted, that these locals want them out, therefore there's always that threat around the corner. And so it does have a very quirky style of it. I thought the soundtrack contributed to that quirkiness, and you're never quite sure where this killer is because he does blend in within these costumes. And so that's something that I really liked also. So you have a movie that does have fresh kills as far as creativity is concerned. You have a beautiful looking film to just marvel at, and you also have that sense of quirkiness that is Alex de la Iglesia. But if I have issues with this movie, is that from such an accomplished director, it does fall into a very generic path, as the slasher sort of formula is not really going out of its way to be different. And so yes, it does look visually amazing. Yes, the characters and the quirkiness of the whole situation is there, and the overall uneasiness of it is there, but unfortunately it's not enough to really warrant this movie as existing from such a fantastic director. And it felt like a movie that he had to make instead of actually genuinely wanting to make, if you know what I mean. That some of these directors, they are prolific, and sometimes their movies are made just to put their name out there to make sure no one's forgetting about them. So this is a film that has a lot of love and attention to it, and it is a love letter to classic slashers, but from such a director I'd expected a little bit more as far as the formula is concerned. Yes, as I said, the overall mood is very quirky and very Alex de la Iglesia, but there's just not enough difference in it to make it a movie that had a lot of heart and passion behind it. And so yes, the overall production has that passion, but the overall story and the formula, I felt as though it felt a little bit lazy as far as someone with such accolades is concerned, and it just goes down a path that is quite generic, and I knew how this was going to finish. Although I liked the way it finished, I still expected something just a little bit more. So a movie on its own with a director that you really hadn't heard of, it would have been a really good movie. But for such a director, from churning out all these phenomenal films, I just expected a little bit more from Veniciafrenia. And so pushing that aside, it's still a good movie, but from such a director who continues to elevate his work, I thought as though this is a film that is going to go into the pile of the more forgotten type. Although it is very serviceable, I still thought as though it's not as memorable as the classic Alex de la Iglesia. So if you like impressive kills, you like a really uneasy atmosphere, Veniciafrenia is definitely one for you. Go out there and see it. I'm going to give this film 3.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.